Seniors, listen up. What if your refrigerator, the very heart of your kitchen, is secretly harming you? New studies reveal that refrigerating certain everyday foods could be sabotaging your health, causing nutrient loss, increasing food poisoning risks, and even weakening your immune system. In the next few minutes, we'll uncover the 9 foods that you should never chill if you want to stay vibrant and healthy. Stay with us. This may change the way you stock your pantry forever. Most people don't think twice about tossing raw potatoes into the fridge. But did you know this simple habit could be turning your potatoes into a toxic threat? You see, raw potatoes are loaded with starch, a natural carbohydrate. But when you refrigerate them, especially below 45 degrees Fahrenheit 7 degrees Celsius, that starch undergoes a process called cold-induced sweetening. This transforms the starch into sugars. While that might not sound like a big deal, here's where it gets dangerous. When those sugary potatoes are later cooked, particularly at high temperatures like frying or roasting, they can produce a compound called acrylamide. According to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, and studies published by the European Food Safety Authority, acrylamide is a potential carcinogen. Long-term exposure in animals has been linked to cancer, and while the evidence in humans is still being studied, health authorities around the world recommend limiting it wherever possible, especially for vulnerable populations like seniors. And it doesn't stop there. Refrigerating potatoes doesn't just affect their safety, it affects their quality. Cold storage can make them grainy, weirdly sweet, and even strip them of essential nutrients like vitamin C, which is already sensitive to light and temperature. For seniors, losing out on this vital antioxidant, essential for immunity and tissue repair, can be a hidden setback in maintaining health. So, what should you do instead? Store your raw potatoes in a cool, dark, and dry place, like a pantry, kitchen drawer, or paper bag in a cupboard. Make sure there's air circulation and avoid plastic bags, which trap moisture and speed up rot. Also, keep potatoes away from onions. They release ethylene gas that causes nearby veggies to spoil faster. Here's a quick test. If your potatoes are sprouting, turning green, or have a bitter taste, it's time to toss them. Those are signs of solanine, a natural toxin that increases with poor storage and can cause nausea, headaches, and even neurological issues in large amounts. Remember, potatoes may look innocent, but treating them wrong can bring unintended harm. It's a simple change that could significantly lower your exposure to toxic compounds and preserve the nutritional quality of one of your most common foods. Stay with us, because next, we're exposing a pantry staple that's probably sitting in your fridge right now, and it's growing mold faster than you think. You've probably done it before, bought a loaf of bread, tossed it in the fridge, and thought, perfect, this will last longer. But here's the cold, moldy truth. Refrigerating your bread might actually be ruining it faster, especially if you're over 60 and relying on bread for daily energy and fiber. Let's unpack this. When bread is exposed to the cold, a chemical process called retrogradation kicks in. This process causes the starch molecules in the bread to crystallize, leading to a rapid loss of moisture. The result? Bread that becomes dry, tough, and stale in just a day or two, ironically, faster than if you'd just left it at room temperature. But that's not even the worst part. When cold, stale bread is brought back to room temperature, say, to make a sandwich or toast, it becomes a prime breeding ground for mold. And mold spores love to grow in humid, fluctuating environments, exactly like your kitchen on a busy morning. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, consuming moldy bread can cause allergic reactions, respiratory issues, and digestive discomfort, particularly in older adults with weakened immune systems. Think about it, you're trying to be practical, maybe stretching your grocery runs by a few days. But that loaf sitting in the back of your fridge, it might be exposing you to invisible fungal threats that can do more harm than you realize. So what's the smart move? Store your bread at room temperature in a sealed container or bread box for 3 to 4 days. This keeps it fresh without speeding up staling. For longer storage, here's the real trick: slice and freeze your bread. When you need it, just pop a slice in the toaster. Freezing halts the retrogradation process and dramatically slows mold growth, preserving the taste and texture. And here's a tip many overlook. Avoid storing bread in plastic bags on the counter, especially in warm weather. That moisture buildup inside the bag. It's a 5-star hotel for mold spores. Remember, seniors need reliable sources of energy and fiber, and bread, when stored properly, is still a staple worth keeping. Just store it right. Because moldy bread isn't just gross, it's potentially harmful to your health. Coming up next, a common kitchen essential that looks perfectly fine in the fridge, but is silently spoiling your fruit, your butter, and your immune system. They're bold, aromatic, and essential in everything from soups to stir-fries. But storing whole onions in the fridge. That's a mistake, especially if you're over 60 and trying to avoid unnecessary immune stress and food waste. Here's why. Whole onions thrive in dry, ventilated spaces. When you place them in the fridge, the cold, moist air begins to break down their protective outer layers. This leads to softened flesh, faster spoilage, and, worst of all, mold growth. In fact, the moisture accelerates bacterial activity and increases the chance of developing fuzzy white or green mold that might not be visible until it's already spread. But there's another hidden danger: cross-contamination. Onions don't just absorb moisture. They absorb and release odors. When you refrigerate them next to fruit, butter, or bread, they can contaminate your entire fridge with a sharp, lingering smell and potentially ruin the taste of other foods. Ever had your butter taste strangely like onions? Now you know why. And if you think sliced onions in containers are safe, think again. A cut onion begins oxidizing almost immediately. Within 24 to 48 hours, even in a sealed container, it can start harboring bacteria. For seniors with a naturally declining immune response, that means a higher risk of digestive discomfort or infections. The U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, confirms improper onion storage increases the risk of foodborne illness, especially when onions are reused or left too long in damp environments. So how do you store onions correctly? For whole onions, use a mesh bag, paper sack, or basket in a dry, well-ventilated pantry. Avoid plastic bags, they trap moisture. Keep them far from potatoes. Potatoes release moisture and gas that speed up onion spoilage. Only cut what you need. If you must store sliced onion, place it in an airtight glass container and use it within 1 to 2 days. It's the little things that add up over time. One soggy onion might not seem like a threat, but for seniors managing health, immunity, and meal planning, proper storage is key to making each ingredient count. And speaking of misunderstood produce, our next item is one of the most common refrigerator victims, and it's losing all its flavor in the cold. If you've ever taken a bite of a cold tomato and wondered why it tastes like nothing, you're not imagining it. Refrigerating tomatoes doesn't just dull their flavor, it kills it. Here's the science behind it. Tomatoes are tropical fruits, biologically designed to ripen in warm, ambient temperatures. When you store them in the fridge, typically below 55 degrees Fahrenheit 13 degrees Celsius, you interrupt their natural ripening process. This cold shock halts the production of lycopene, the powerful antioxidant responsible for giving tomatoes their vibrant red color and robust flavor. But the damage doesn't stop at taste. A 2016 study from the University of Florida found that refrigerating tomatoes deactivates genes responsible for aroma production. These are the very genes that give tomatoes their fresh, garden-like scent and rich, sweet tart flavor. In other words, cold storage strips tomatoes of their identity, both in taste and in nutritional value. For seniors, this is especially concerning. Tomatoes are packed with vitamin C, potassium, and lycopene, all vital for heart health, immune support, and cellular repair. But when kept cold, tomatoes lose up to 65% of their vitamin C in just a few days. That's a critical loss, considering seniors are already more prone to vitamin C deficiency, which can weaken immunity and delay wound healing. And let's not forget texture. Cold temperatures cause the cell walls inside tomatoes to break down, making them mealy, watery, and mushy. Ever tried slicing a refrigerated tomato and ended up with a soggy mess? That's not a kitchen accident, that's a science fail. So, what should you do instead? Store your tomatoes stem side down at room temperature, ideally in a shaded spot on your kitchen counter. This prevents air from seeping into the stem scar, helping retain moisture and flavor. If a tomato is overripe and you can't use it immediately, sure, pop it into the fridge briefly, but let it come back to room temp before eating to help restore some of the lost flavor. Here's a smart move: overripe tomatoes. Use them in sauces, soups, or stews where texture doesn't matter but flavor still shines. Garlic has been hailed for centuries as one of the most powerful natural medicines. It fights infections, lowers blood pressure, boosts immunity, and supports heart health, especially vital for older adults. But storing garlic in the fridge. That's how you take this ancient healer and strip it of its magic. Let's break it down. Whole garlic bulbs are living organisms. When refrigerated, they experience a sudden jolt in humidity and temperature, which triggers premature sprouting. The result? Those familiar green shoots that pop out of the cloves, a clear sign the garlic is past its prime. And sprouted garlic? It tastes bitter, loses potency, and begins to break down its most beneficial compound, allicin. Allicin is garlic's secret weapon, a sulfur compound that forms when you crush or chop fresh cloves. It's responsible for most of garlic's powerful health benefits, including immune system activation, antibacterial and antiviral effects, cholesterol reduction, and improved blood circulation. But allicin is fragile. According to a study published in the Journal of Agricultural and Food Chemistry, cold temperatures significantly reduce allicin's formation. That means the garlic you're storing in the fridge isn't just sprouting, it's losing its ability to protect your heart, your immune system, and your long-term health. Even worse, if you've ever chopped garlic and mixed it with oil to save it for later, there's a hidden danger lurking. Improperly stored garlic and oil, especially when refrigerated or kept at room temp too long, can become a breeding ground for Clostridium botulinum, the bacteria that causes botulism. This rare but deadly illness affects the nervous system, and seniors are especially vulnerable due to reduced resistance. Here's what to do instead. Store whole garlic bulbs in a cool, dry, well-ventilated place, like a wire basket or mesh bag in your pantry. Avoid plastic bags, which trap moisture and lead to rot. Once garlic is chopped, use it immediately for maximum health benefit. Want to preserve minced garlic safely? Store it in vinegar or lemon juice and refrigerate short-term. These acidic environments help inhibit harmful bacteria. In the world of senior health, garlic is a champion. But even champions need the right environment to thrive. Treat garlic like the medicine it is, store it with care, and let your meals become your daily dose of wellness. Up next, a drink that many seniors rely on for comfort and energy, but storing it in the fridge. That's how you lose the very thing that makes it special. For many seniors, that morning cup of coffee is more than just a ritual, it's a lifeline. It provides warmth, clarity, and a comforting sense of routine. But here's something most people don't know. Storing your coffee in the fridge is slowly destroying its taste, aroma, and health benefits. Why? Because coffee is a hygroscopic substance, which means it absorbs moisture and odors from its environment like a sponge. When you store ground coffee or whole beans in your refrigerator, they don't just chill, they soak up the smells of nearby foods. Leftovers, onions, even butter. Your next brew. It could taste like yesterday's dinner. But that's just the start. Moisture is the silent killer of coffee. When condensation forms, which it inevitably does in and out of the fridge, it begins to break down the delicate oils inside the coffee bean. These oils are where most of coffee's flavor and health benefits reside. And once they degrade, you're left with a bitter, flat, lifeless cup that's lost its edge. From a nutritional standpoint, coffee is a rich source of antioxidants, particularly chlorogenic acid, which research has shown can help lower blood pressure, support cognitive health, improve glucose metabolism, and protect against age-related inflammation. But the moment those beans or grounds are exposed to damp, cold air, those antioxidants begin to deteriorate. A 2020 study published in Food Research International confirmed that exposure to humidity and temperature shifts significantly reduces antioxidant levels in both roasted and ground coffee. Now think about that for a second. You're relying on coffee for clarity, energy, and even protection against diseases like Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. But every time you open that fridge and reach for the coffee jar, you're unknowingly making it weaker, both in flavor and in function. So what's the best way to store coffee? Keep your coffee in an airtight, opaque container. Light and air are enemies of freshness. Store it in a cool, dry pantry, not too hot, not too cold. If you buy in bulk, freeze small portions in vacuum-sealed bags to preserve freshness. Only thaw what you'll use in the next week. And whatever you do, never put an open bag or loose coffee in the fridge or freezer without protection. The constant exposure to cold, air, and moisture is a flavor assassin. Next up, a sweet golden liquid that never needed refrigeration in the first place, but chilling it could ruin its legendary health benefits. Here's a surprising fact. Honey is the only food in the world that never spoils naturally. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs, still perfectly edible after thousands of years. That's not magic, that's science. So why are so many people refrigerating it? When you store honey in the fridge, you're going against its natural chemistry. Cold temperatures cause honey to crystallize, turning that smooth, golden liquid into a gritty, hard-to-spread mess. And once it crystallizes, many people mistakenly assume it's spoiled and throw it away. But it's not spoiled, it's just mishandled. Crystallization doesn't just affect texture, it impacts flavor and nutrient absorption too. According to the National Honey Board, refrigeration accelerates the formation of sugar crystals, which separate from the liquid and trap moisture. That moisture can then promote fermentation, especially if the honey wasn't sealed tightly. Fermented honey has a sour taste, can bubble, and lose many of its antimicrobial properties, the very reason it's considered a natural healer. Let's talk benefits for a moment, especially for seniors. Raw honey contains natural enzymes that support digestion, antibacterial and antifungal compounds that protect against infections, antioxidants like flavonoids and phenolic acids that reduce inflammation, and natural sugars that offer gentle energy without harsh spikes. But many of these nutrients are sensitive to light, heat, and moisture fluctuations. Storing honey in the fridge introduces all three, putting your golden elixir at risk of nutrient loss and flavor degradation. Instead, here's what you should do. Keep honey in a tightly sealed glass jar or food-safe plastic container. Store it in a dark, dry cabinet or pantry, away from direct sunlight or your stove. If it crystallizes, don't panic. Just warm the jar gently in a bowl of warm, not boiling, water until the crystals dissolve. A quick warning: never microwave honey, as it destroys enzymes and can lead to uneven heating that spoils the texture permanently. In short, honey is already nature's perfect food. It doesn't need preserving, it just needs respect. When stored right, it can last for years and keep delivering health benefits with every golden spoonful. Coming up next, a fruit known for its brain-boosting benefits, but one that turns bitter, black, and nutrient-poor when it hits the chill zone. Bananas are often seen as the ultimate health snack, quick, affordable, and rich in potassium. For seniors, they're especially valuable, easy to chew, naturally sweet, and packed with nutrients that support heart and brain health. But if you're storing them in the fridge, you're doing them a major disservice and possibly losing all the goodness they're meant to deliver. Here's why. Bananas are tropical fruits, meaning they're naturally adapted to grow and ripen in warm climates. When exposed to temperatures below 58 degrees Fahrenheit 14 degrees Celsius, they undergo chilling injury, a condition that disrupts the ripening process at a cellular level. Once chilled, the cell walls begin to break down, and the enzymes responsible for producing sweetness and aroma become inactive. The result: a banana that's dull in taste, mushy in texture, and visibly unappealing with a blackened peel. But it's not just about looks. Chilled bananas also lose their nutritional punch. According to research from the International Journal of Food Science, refrigeration can lead to a significant drop in antioxidant activity, especially levels of dopamine, a crucial brain chemical involved in memory, motivation, and mood regulation. That's a big loss for older adults, many of whom already face natural declines in cognitive function. Let's talk benefits for a second. A properly ripened banana is a powerhouse of nutrients, including potassium, which helps control blood pressure and support heart health; vitamin B6, vital for brain development and nervous system regulation; magnesium, essential for bone strength and muscle function; dopamine and serotonin precursors, which support emotional well-being. Now imagine throwing all of that away with one wrong move, putting your bananas in the fridge before they're ripe. So what should you do? Store unripe bananas at room temperature, away from sunlight and heat. Once they're fully ripe and starting to spot, you can refrigerate them briefly to slow down further ripening, but understand, the peel will blacken, even if the inside remains mostly fine. If your bananas are ripening too fast, peel and freeze them. Frozen bananas are perfect for smoothies, banana bread, or even a healthy ice cream alternative when blended. In essence, bananas are brain and heart food for seniors, but only when handled right. Keep them warm, treat them gently, and you'll enjoy all the natural sweetness and nourishment they're meant to offer. And now we come to the final, and perhaps most surprising, item on our list. A Mediterranean staple celebrated for heart health that becomes harmful when you cool it down. Olive oil is often hailed as liquid gold, and for good reason. It's rich in monounsaturated fats, antioxidants, and anti-inflammatory compounds that support heart health, brain function, and longevity, all critical pillars for seniors. But storing this golden elixir in the fridge, that's a mistake that could undo its most powerful benefits. Let's break it down. When olive oil is exposed to cold temperatures, like those inside your refrigerator, it begins to solidify and cloud. This is a natural reaction due to the fat content, but it's also a red flag. Repeatedly moving olive oil from cold to room temperature creates condensation inside the bottle, introducing moisture, the one thing olive oil can't tolerate. Moisture inside the bottle leads to oxidation, and oxidation leads to the creation of free radicals, unstable molecules that can trigger inflammation and cell damage. That's exactly the opposite of what olive oil is supposed to do. A study published in the journal Food Chemistry confirms that exposure to fluctuating temperatures accelerates the degradation of olive oil's polyphenol, the very compounds responsible for its disease-fighting powers. So in simple terms, cold plus air plus light equals damaged oil. What does this mean for you? If you're using olive oil to lower blood pressure, reduce cholesterol, or protect against cognitive decline, which many seniors do, then how you store it directly affects how well it works. And spoiled olive oil doesn't just lose potency, it can start to taste bitter or rancid, making your healthy meals less enjoyable and possibly harmful if consumed in excess. Here's how to store olive oil the right way. Keep it in a cool, dark cupboard, away from your stove or any heat source. Use dark glass bottles or metal tins, they protect against light exposure. Avoid plastic containers as chemicals can leach into the oil over time. Buy in quantities you can use within 6 to 12 months of opening. Always close the lid tightly to prevent oxygen from sneaking in. For seniors looking to protect their heart, brain, and joints, olive oil is an essential ally. But only if you treat it like the precious substance it is. Store it right, and it will reward you with flavor, longevity, and vitality in every drop. Now that you've opened the door to these 9 kitchen truths, take one last look inside your fridge tonight. Is your honey crystallized on the top shelf? Are your potatoes buried in the veggie drawer, slowly sweetening into something harmful? Are your onions quietly contaminating everything nearby? These might seem like small, harmless habits. But for seniors, small changes stack up to big outcomes: more energy, fewer infections, sharper memory, and meals that actually fuel your health instead of draining it. The good news: you don't need a complete kitchen overhaul. Just awareness. Just smarter choices. Because when it comes to aging well, The battle isn't always in the doctor's office, it's in the pantry. And here's the real twist. These aren't the only foods we're mishandling. In fact, there are 5 other everyday items that most seniors misuse, and one of them might be your favorite breakfast staple. But we'll talk about that in the next video.